BRN, where educators share what works.
I understand walled gardens in regard to security, thinking as a data privacy officer, but just hearing the way in which you used it with your classroom to create your own chatbot, how you're just upping the game to engage them, to keep them safe, to keep them pointed to what it is you really want them to learn, and then to structure it after you. I'm just blown away.
Well, hello, everybody. It's been a while. Nice to see you all.
Thank you.
See you.
Good morning.
So this has been a conversation I've been really eager to have because we've been chatting a little bit over our texts group chat, and one of our primary concerns, I guess, from the very beginning has been security. Student security, privacy, a lack of comfort with what we might be uploading into AI. And Dan, you especially, Caroline and Julie, I think you might have a potential, at least quasi-solution to that. What have you been up to around security and the publicness of AI?
Well, Tom, I wear two hats on this because, as I mentioned in one of our previous meetups, I'm on the AI committee at both MEF International Schools and also at MEF University. And what we're seeing is that what we need to do, which AIs we use, are very different depending on whether you're in school or university. Because in schools, you have to be so careful about which apps you're using, about getting permissions.
Yeah.
And this, whereas it is not so important in universities, it's important for a different reason, maybe regarding patents and things like that. But at schools, I think Dan and Julie know more about me than this, the importance of having this safe online environment and knowing that you're using a walled garden safe bot to do so. And I think, Dan, you've been experimenting with some walled garden bots.
I have. There's one specifically that has really caught my attention, and the AI itself is absolutely incredible. It's called schoolai.com, and School AI has a walled garden approach that you can set up with your school. It does take a meeting to be able to, figure out the logistics with your tech department, administrators, as well as with School AI so that they can walk you through the process of setting that up. But it means that all of your students' data, all of their entries into the AI stays within a barrier. And the fact that all of that information stays local has enabled the company to be FERPA and COPA-compliant because they're able to really acknowledge the fact that student data privacy is a concern. It's part of their value system, and they're working to protect that information.
So what do you mean by walled garden when you're both referring to that? What exactly are you getting at there?
The data right now, when students are engaged with, say, ChatGPT, we do not have any idea where that information's going. Who's accessing that information? Is that information being farmed out to various companies and countries? We don't know what's being done with that data. Walled garden means it stays within a barrier, and it's not being externally sourced. Am I understanding that correctly, Caroline?
Yes, but Dan, I was thinking there's another advantage to them as well. So Dan, you actually shared one of your walled garden units with me. Can you remind me? It was about the plague, the Black Death?
It was about the decline of feudalism. Yep.
Okay. Now, you created that as a unit for your students. You shared that with me, and I got my students to play around with it to see what they thought about the app itself. But one thing, and then my students wrote kind of feedback and a review of it, and we did a SWOT analysis on it. One thing is that I really liked, unlike ChatGPT, where you're writing in prompts and ChatGPT will come back with a response, You set it up, Dan, didn't you? So it would nudge the students in certain directions. Can you explain how you did that?
I did, because School AI, it allows you to create your own chatbot, essentially, for use with your students. You put in all the parameters, all the things you want it to do and not do. One of the things I told it not to do was provide summaries. I said, you can provide a couple of facts, but I want you to follow it up with a question. And that's exactly what it would do. A student would ask it a question, and it would provide a few details, and then it would say something like, so how do you think that applies to our main topic? And so it develops critical thinking for students, and it's not just about getting an answer.
And it's what you would do, right? It sounds like you're
Right.
kind of almost cloning your own teaching strategy, your own approach.
Right, which is why I've put it into my curriculum, because I built all of my own curriculum to look like a video streaming service.
Yeah.
And so I made a little icon of myself using Midjourney. I put that into Canva, created a little speech bubble with it that said, hello, I'm your virtual Mr. Jones.
Wow.
Click on me if you have any additional questions. So they'll click that. It takes them into the chatbot for that specific unit. The other really cool thing about this particular platform is I could tell it, hey, my students are going to be working on a project that addresses all of these different questions. I need you to help ask them, how are they going to apply this information to their project? And so it's going to help walk them through the processing of the information and how it can be applied. So it's not just critical thinking, but it's also application of this information. And it can provide them with support on their project, because if a student says, I don't really know how I'm going to do that, do you have any suggestions? It can provide them with the necessary suggestions for guiding them through that project. And this is fantastic for when students don't have access to me.
So clearly you're defining the topic area, but are you responsible for also uploading the core data set, or is it pulling from internet sources the way other generative AI bots are?
It pulls from, I'm pretty sure it's ChatGPT 3.5.
Powered, okay.
But and it acknowledges, hey, I might give some inaccurate information at times. But for the most part, because a lot of what I'm dealing with historical content,
Right.
it's widely known information.
And it's not current, right? It's not since 2005 or 2020, wherever ChatGPT's data set ends.
It's up to, I think, January 2023 now.
Yep.
Okay. 3.5 or 4? I know 4.
Is that for? I'm not. Oh, I can't remember.
Okay.
This is one of the things, too, that I found fascinating, because I asked my students how they liked using it. Some of the responses were, it's really nice. Like, it's kind.
Well, it's cloned you.
But I will say it's nicer than me, because, I mean, every little question, it says, that was fantastic. I'm so glad you asked that.
Oh, that was one of my students or one of your students, I'm trying to remember because we discussed it, actually said, wow, this app is nicer than most of the teachers I've had.
Yes. I think that was one of my students.
They really liked the support and the way it talked to them. They really liked the real human touch with it.
Well, and the kids also have recognized that it's non-judgmental.
Yes.
So when it says, hey, tell me what you know about the Declaration of Independence. And if a student says, I don't know anything, they say, hey, that's okay. At least we know where we're starting. And it's a non-judgmental of, like, kids I think are really afraid to say, I don't know. I mean, a lot of adults are afraid to say, I don't know. But for a student, when you ask a question in class and only 3 hands go up, it's because the rest of the kids are afraid to say, I don't know.
That's right. Or look like or give an incorrect response. I don't want to say, look, I hate the S word, but look as though they're not familiar with the content.
Right?
Can I tell you, so we have like a behind the scenes kind of, we communicate with one another when we don't sit here at the cafe, because there's so much information that we learn and share with one another throughout the weeks, throughout the days, throughout the months. So on the premise of I don't know, I have to tell you, I've been reading what you're writing, and I understand walled gardens in regard to security, thinking as a data privacy officer, but just hearing the way in which you used it with your classroom, how you used Midjourney to create your own chatbot, how you're just upping the game for students in your classroom to engage them, to keep them safe, to keep them pointed to what it is you really want them to learn about, and then to structure it after you. I'm just blown away. So, I mean, I read what you all said, but I had to hear what you said to totally understand it. So, right, that's my learning. I had to get my learning in a couple of different ways. And I'm just like blown away. That is just like the coolest thing. So for like our Tech Connect help desk, we were just talking about making an AI bot for people. And I'm thinking, like, yeah, okay, how can I apply this? Wow.
Julie, obviously you haven't been able to look at the terms of service of this tool that Dan's talking about, but I've been very, very open recently about my concerns around AI. What I'm struck by is how many of those boxes are checked for me personally, of keeping student information local, as you said, Dan, right? Not putting it up into the cloud of a company that might do whatever they want to do with it. The other thing I'll echo, and it doesn't surprise me because you said it's powered by ChatGPT in the background, but every time I've used ChatGPT, I'm just kind of doing the mental check, but yeah, I think every time I've used ChatGPT to help me in generating feedback to student work or in assessment in general, it's consistently constructed the criticism sandwich that we're all kind of taught to employ. Strength, weakness, opportunity for improvement, strength, right? You start positive, you give the constructive feedback, and you end positive. That seems to be embedded into the feedback that ChatGPT gives in an educational context, which has always impressed me.
Dan, I was so impressed with this that I had my final lesson of the semester yesterday, and we start the new semester soon. And I'm certainly planning on using School AI to develop something for each unit that we do throughout the course. The course I'm going to be doing is Design Thinking Innovation, actually designing kind of apps or tools that we can use for different stakeholders at the university based on real life problems. And so the pre-class videos and the setup, because it's flipped learning, will be about what design thinking is, all the different stages. And I definitely am going to set up for each unit a school AI that works on developing this critical thinking. So I may be chatting to you to get some more advice before I set that up. So thank you so much for sharing it.
Well, and one of the other things too that I absolutely love about this specific program is that students can't get it off track. When you set up the behind the scenes, parameters for it, you tell it, this is the topic that we're talking about. And so if a student says, hey, can you DoorDash me a pizza? It says, you seem a little off task.
Right.
Back to our topic of the decline of feudalism. So it will continue to work the student back to the topic, but as a teacher, you get insights into how students are using it. You get to see their entire conversation.
I was wondering, do you get to see that kid asked for the pizza? Because now that leads to, I get to sit down and have that conference with you and say, I see, because there's your data, right? And
Yeah.
5 times you were off task. How can I assist you? So now here comes the teacher, right? Because it always has to come back to the teacher, that human connection and conversation.
Well, and one of the great things that it does is it doesn't, like, for me to have to go through and click every single student to see what it is they're saying would be monotonous. But I get a little list of insights. And so it tells me, it'll prompt me, and it'll say like, hey, Jennifer is doing a great job asking questions about the olive branch petition. But Johnny is struggling to understand the importance of petitions that the colonists sent to the king. So it gives me those insights, and it'll tell me that, Sally is off task.
Is that in real time as
Yeah.
the student? Oh my God. So there was a tool a very long time ago called Go Formative, and it was almost like a Yep, an online collaborative whiteboard where students could work together on in-class projects. But as the instructor, you would have thumbnails of each of those whiteboards in real time as students were working. And so you can kind of keep tabs on every group simultaneously. And I'll say, then they went to a subscription service, and a lot of the tools and the capabilities changed, and I moved away from it. But that real-time snapshot of student work as they were working in class together in groups was the most powerful tool I've ever had as an instructor. So I can fully appreciate the formative assessment value of that.
I'm so glad that you said that. You reminded us. This is not new technology. We've been using this as educators in multiple forms, in different tests that adjust to the students' answers, in different programs where we can see real-time information and gather data. So this is not new. This is now just that new version, new car smell, and the more advanced version that's going to help us assist our students and should, sounds like Dan, add some time and assistance to our job?
Yes. And there's the wonderful thing is, yes, it's providing this data, but this isn't the only thing this program does. It will level reading material. It will help with IEP goals. One of the cool things that I've done with it is it has a choose your own adventure. I mean, we all love those books as kids, but it has a choose your own adventure option. So I could set up an activity for my students. I'll put in what is your topic? The Revolutionary War. What is your scene? The Battle of New York in 1776. And what do you want your outcome to be? I want to survive with George Washington. And then you hit preview, and it will create this entire adventure for your students to engage in, and they'll have to pick their role, and then they'll have different scenarios, and they'll have to choose their option of what do you want to do next. But you can do that with books. You can do it with history. You could do that with math problems. The possibilities are endless as to how you could use it. There are book adventures that you can do, so that, you just type in the title of a book, then say, I want this to be a role-playing game. And it will generate a role-playing game for you in 30 seconds.
This sounds like multiple programs, paid subscriptions in one thing. And then I was just going to ask you, could you please repeat the name of the program and what is the cost?
That's what I was going to ask too.
Funny.
How much is this?
The option without walled garden, because not every part of it is walled garden. You have to set that up with your school, and the price varies depending on the size of your school. So I can't get into details necessarily about that, because it's going to be...
Is it per student? So it goes by size?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Could you just could you just repeat the name of the program?
The program is School AI.
Thank you.
But it's schoolai.com. So it's not school.ai, but it's actually free for individual teachers to use, but that's the non-walled garden version. As far as I know, even the non-walled garden version is still FERPA and COPA-compliant, because students are not entering in their own data. There's no identifying information from the student.
They're consumers, right? They're consumers.
Correct.
Yeah.
So they don't have to log in. They don't have to, their Google account's not associated with anything like that. But the program itself is free.
So, two things. I'm sorry. This is the data privacy person in me. I know we say this often, just because students aren't logging in or it's not connected to their Google account does not necessarily mean when you go to a URL and you're on your school's network, there are still ways behind the scenes, as we all know, that computers can pull data. I wanted to just remind everybody. And the other thing I was thinking, so if I'm a teacher and I want to use this at home, because I can't use it at school at the moment because of what our privacy settings are, sounds like I could still use this at home and help it assist me with lessons that I can bring back to my class.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it can definitely help with lesson plan generation, and any document, like if there's reading material that I have the students use that I want it to be leveled, that one of the differences that I've seen from other platforms is this will store the document for me on my account so I can access it later.
That's
And I can then, download the document as it's written instead of having to copy paste everything. I can download it, and that way I then have it stored on my end. So, I mean, it does some different features. It has some different functions than other platforms that I've seen.
So, Julie, you said something a while ago that I was going to push back on a little bit, and then I lucked out because you pushed back on yourself. I just want to return to it and echo it. You had initially said that that this wasn't anything new, that tools like this have existed for a long time. And I agree with a lot of that. But then I think what's much more powerful is later on you added what is new and what is different is that everything is integrated now under one umbrella, one student user interface.
Yeah.
Where we used to use this tool to accomplish this aim and another tool for that aim, and then our own kind of ingenuity to link those tools together and create a kind of hub as best we could, maybe in an LMS. These AI tools are doing all of that. It's from the student side. This is a seamless user interface.
Yes.
And although we understand what's being integrated in the background, they don't have to worry about any of that. There's no inconvenience to them at all. That's a powerful innovation.
Yes, it's like the Walmart superstore. Everything in there for you. We're right before, just like you said, as educators, like because you were saying about Go Formative, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. And you were pairing up 9 different apps. App smashing was the term, right? You were app smashing to help get what you really wanted to do. And so now, wouldn't a tech director love this? I can reduce the number of things that we're purchasing to help our students and teachers be successful.
So as we wrap up the last dregs of our now cold coffee here, I have to ask the closing question. Forgive me for always being the wet blanket, but I have to ask, are we putting ourselves out of a job? Like, is this technology ultimately going to be capable of replacing us?
No.
I don't think so.
Tell me why. Send me home with a good feeling.
So before, Dan was expressing that it gave him data. That's what we're supposed to be doing in school. We're supposed to be using the data that we receive so that now we can be more prescriptive. But the conversations have to come from the human. The human is always going to advance or work on the AI. And so that's why we need to understand it and teach it to the students. Because yes, things will advance and things will advance. But there still needs to be that human connection and understanding. So he's taking that data and sitting with the student and having the conference. There's that human connection. You can't replace that, or at least not in my time. Yeah. I don't think.
There are still decisions that have to be made within a classroom. I have to be able to know when a child is struggling, because what if a child doesn't interact with the bot? They don't want to do that. I still have to be physically present in order to still engage with that student. The AI provides a lot of growth and opportunity for kids, especially kids who maybe don't feel comfortable asking me a question. They can ask the AI the question and get feedback that they need. They still feel comfortable and supported knowing that you're there for them. Mm-hmm. There is something about human presence that provides safety and security within a classroom, whether that's emotional safety and security, educational safety and security, whatever that may be, they need you there. You are the one who's providing those opportunities. I mean, it took a person to explore different AI options to provide them with something. And it's not necessarily putting me out of a job, but it's me showing them how to use something appropriately. They still need that guidance. Otherwise, we're going to become lazy, uneducated people who are dependent upon AI instead of looking for ways to be critical thinkers, analyzers, and doers.
Caroline, I'm 75% of the way to a contented sigh. Bring me all the way.
Well, I think, as we've discussed in some previous cafes, one of the things that this really does is save teachers time in prepping, in doing various things, in being able to track the students. And through doing that, once we remove some of that, then we can spend that time more on focusing on the students. I really think it's going to give us a lot more opportunity to interact with our students. Just one example, which you guys know I shared on our chat, I've just cloned my voice. I'm now going to use my cloned voice to help make all my pre-class videos by just uploading the text, and it will have my voice. It used to take me ages to create those videos. So no, that's not something. They are important for my course, but now I can free up all that time. I've got a lot more time to focus on what I'm doing in class and how I'm interacting with the students and the projects that we're doing. So no, I think in teachers, instructors, still absolutely critical, but it's shifting our focus, and I think it's making it more student-centered.
There it is. So for quite a while now, I've been finding myself in the yes, but when we've had these conversations. I appreciate the power, I appreciate the innovation, but I always had that concern. This is the first time in a long time I don't have that but yet. I think we are back on track to using tools that are not only going to, as you said, Caroline, free up our own efforts and allow us to spend our valuable time directly impacting students, but giving our students a much more well-rounded and a much more comprehensive educational experience. It is quite amazing. It's quite amazing.
No, I agree with everyone. This is going to help us be more interactive with our students as opposed to being interactive with the screen or papers or other administrative things that we need to do.
So with that perfectly said, Julie, I'll go pay the check. You all have a wonderful week, and I'll see you back here for another warm cup of coffee.
You can see links to all the tools mentioned in the show notes. Thanks for listening.